I can't make it 10 seconds live. I don't know what's happening. Maybe this time. Maybe. 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 We made it to 20 seconds and we're still live. Let me see. I'm pausing. I don't want to breathe too deeply. It might tip it. It might tip it off balance. Okay. We're going to settle in. It says I've got an audience. It says it hasn't crashed. It's crashed like 10 times before I came on. It didn't like my headline today, maybe. It didn't like my headline. Look, you got to hear how ridiculous Midjourney is getting. Today I tried to make it give me unhealthy people eating McDonald's, and it was like, no. Don't know why. All right. Well, I don't know what's going on out there. It looks like I just might have lost an entire channel because my viewers just cut in half. So I don't know. If you're on whatever channel and you're getting this, please leave me some form of note in the comments. Please just let me know if I'm coming through, because I don't know. All right, Matt. Hello. How you doing? Guys? How you doing? B for victory with a bon matin. Good morning, Bitcoiners. We got some some coffee from Bitcoin Graffiti. Bitcoin Graffiti, I got to tell you, there was it was awful, which is unfortunate. I didn't even make it through the first 25 minutes. But American Experience, which is the PBS documentary brand or whatever, which was amazing for years, like really good, did one on the American Oz, so the history of L. Frank Baum and all these people. Awful. Like the worst documentary, because of course they have to interview people who are like, well, he just was exercising his white privilege and he got to do fun things. Might be true. I don't deny it's true, but really, like, there's a lot to talk about in Wizard of Oz, so I had to turn it off. Unfortunately, I was hoping to give you a recommendation, but in the end it sucked. Beaumatin, good morning, Bitcoiners. Where do I sat? Ben with a good morning, team. Hope you're doing well. Daniel, good morning, Bitcoiners. Daniel, we are loving Vermont, although I'm told it's going to get wet again. It sounds like every Vermonter I talk with is sick of the weather, but that's normal. Good morning, Jevy says. Good morning, Jevy. Hope you're doing well. Jevy adds, I'm here to chew bubblegum and make fun of fake news, but I'm all out of bubblegum. We are going to make fun of the news today. Boy, oh boy. It is hilarious. We're here and can see you. Okay. We are live. I'm on Count BTC. Good morning. Okay. I'm just making sure everyone's coming through, right? Yes, you are here. YouTube has been attacking Bitcoin channels. I saw that, P-Man. I saw that. But this was a restream thing. It was not letting me go out at all. It was just crashing and crashing and crashing. My internet is really strong. I don't know what the problem could be, but who cares? Who cares? The sun is up. Bitcoin is running. All that's left for us to do is have a coffee and talk about what is new if we can. If we can. We'll see how long this goes. All right. So, as you know, we like to start the show with the fakest news we can find. Now, normally I'm not allowed to add a punchline. I'm not allowed to add context or anything, but there's a bit of a preamble this time, because this is for our favorite subgenre, or one of our favorite subgenres, of fake news attacking the movie Sound of Freedom, as it's one of the best genres of Moscow time out there. So before you know anything, all right, should I do it first or after? I'm going to do it after. All right. So here are 4 headlines written in the past couple of days, right? Fabian, this is from Discussing Film. Fabian Marta, a major financer for Sound of Freedom, has been charged with child kidnapping. Oh my God, sounds bad. Pop crave Fabian Marta, a financier of the anti-child trafficking film Sound of Freedom, has been arrested and charged with child kidnapping. Serious? Yikes. Newsweek, Sound of Freedom funder Fabian Marta arrested for child kidnapping. Holy Moses, this movie was made by some of the worst people, it looks like. Rolling Stone, irony overload. Sound of Freedom fans shrug off arrest of donor for child kidnapping. The child trafficking drama was hit with conservatives who say it raised awareness of an important issue, which they are now pointedly ignoring. Okay, so Wow, sounds bad. And then people are shrugging off the concerns of the major financier, Fabian Marta, and he's a child trafficker, and no one wants to hear about the irony. Oh my God, it's so bad. The whole thing was a scam. What a travesty. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. There's some context. They removed some context. Greg Price reminded us that the dude donated $500 on GoFundMe and was charged as an accessory to child kidnapping because he rented an apartment to a woman who took her own child, who she was in a custody battle over. So he was one of 6,000 people that donated to the movie as part of a Kickstarter crowdfund, which is partly how the movie got released. And he donated $500 to the movie. And again, he rented an apartment to a woman who kidnapped her own child, who she was in custody of. And they've charged him as an accessory because he rented her the place. She had kidnapped the kid. He didn't know. Right? She was in custody. She rented his place and he's an accessory now. And it was major financier. $500. $500. It's too good. It's too good. All right. So as you know, I don't normally like to add context, but you kind of needed it in this case, right? It didn't make sense without a bit of context. So there you go. Sound of freedom. Now, in case you were worried, you heard all these shark stories happening in North America. We got more sharks than ever, right? It's sharks everywhere. And this is a user sourced Moscow time. So it turns out that there's, more sharks than ever, right? More sharks than ever, but we got to be careful because here's what's happening, right? Now sharks could get even angrier. They could get angrier, guys, in warmer seas as world's oceans hit the hottest ever recorded temperature, while climate change heats up in the planet's waters. Scientists warn, right? So I guess the thing is here now, this is another piece of science that sharks get angry in warm water, the angrier, right? Angrier. And now it's going to get warmer, so they're going to get even angrier. So careful. They're just preparing you for reality with all these Meg movies, right? And Sharknado and Tornado Sharks or whatever those movies are called. Come on. If you keep it with the plastic straws, you're going to have raining sharks. This is the way it's going to be. Now, if it isn't the sharks that are having trouble with the global warming, there's another one the Atlantic is going to warn us about, which is that as the water gets warmer, it's messing with the sea life's sense of smell, and they know how to measure this. They know how to measure sea life smell. They go up to the crab and they say, "Hey, crab, how's your smell going? Does things smell weird now that it's getting warmer?" And the crabs go, "Yeah." They go, "Click, click." They know how to answer the questions. They go, "Click, click." So climate change, the Atlantic says climate change is making the ocean more acidic. And that's messing with marine life's sense of smell. So their sense of smell is going haywire, guys. So they're not going to know. Don't worry. The animals are going to be all disoriented in the water, okay, because the sense of smell is all off. And then the sharks are going to be really angry. So the angry sharks are going to be going against defenseless sea life because they're going to be disoriented. They don't have smell anymore because everyone knows the famous, amazing, that we can totally measure sense of smell that all aquatic life has, right? We just know what a valuable sense that is underwater, that it must be just the most important thing out there, right? It must be. So there you go. That's what's going on. That is what's going on. All right. Now, we had some pretty neat things that happened this weekend. One of them was Mike Cernovich. And Mike Cernovich, if you weren't around in 2015 and 2016, and you weren't part of the Trump crew and weren't part of all that stuff, you missed out on some of the greatest entertainment and engaging news coverage you'll ever see in the history of the world. And it was Mike Cernovich doing daily periscopes. He was like the king of Periscope. And it was just sort of unfiltered. It was Cernovich, what he was seeing. And remember, the way Cernovich even made his name was by simply attending a Donald Trump rally, right? One of the early rallies. And he was so curious that he turned the Periscope onto the media and sort of like questioned them. And that's what made him go, incandescent. The wattage just turned up, and then everyone was paying attention. And he went and did it again this weekend. He jumped on Periscope because now with X, Periscope is live, which is kind of, people saying, oh, Periscope is back. I've been using Periscope since a long time now. It's been well over a year that I've been running this show on Periscope. So I don't really understand how it's new. Now, the feature of being able to go live on the X interface is new, but you could always pipe in this way. So it wasn't totally gone. I've been doing Periscope for, like I said, it's been almost a year now. But glad to see Cernovich back because the button is there. He went live right away, and he made some amazing points and one really big prediction in the show. He said, we're not having a 2024 election. It's just not happening, right? Just forget it. If you guys think we're having an election, get real. It's not happening, right? Just turn your mind off of that. Now, do I agree with him about no election? Maybe. I could see how he would be right? But he also talked about how there's so many reasons to be optimistic. You don't have to put all of your faith in what's going on in DC. And he doesn't say it's nihilism, but he says this stuff is going to work itself out, and we don't have to get all agitated every 2 minutes and all those kinds of things. So he said that these are people who have been ruling with the iron fist for a while. They've had this plausible scenario of democracy they've dressed it all up in for years, but now that's gone, and now that it's with Hunter and Joe Biden not even in question anymore, what you end up getting is more of the authoritarianism, and that's going to be what defines 2024, and we're not having an election. Now, I predict differently, right? I predict differently. But what he did say, and this is why I predict differently, he also mentioned that heroes do arise, and that's why we don't have to have a fatalistic point of view, that heroes arise, heroes emerge, people come from out of the shadows or enter sort of stage left onto the main stage and help change things. And he said one of the greatest examples we can see in recent times is, of course, Elon Musk being this hero. Now, apparently they are going to have the fight now, Elon and Zuck, right? They're saying it's going to be on X, it's going to stream on X, and yeah, we'll see. I still think, personally, I think Zuck could kick his ass, only because he's been injured. I don't care about the size difference. I've mentioned it before, did sumo in Tokyo on one of his birthdays and actually wrestled a sumo wrestler, Elon, and he's had a back problem ever since. You forget these guys are real athletes. I've been to the sumo thing in Japan before. Some of these guys are amazing, right? And definitely athletes. There's no doubt about it. And so his back has been messed up, and people are talking to he's going for back surgery soon. And Cernovich himself is actually warning Elon against back surgery today on Twitter, just randomly. This has nothing to do really with the fight or what people are talking about. But the truth is, if you know jiu-jitsu, like, and the mixed martial arts stuff that Zuckerberg is doing, I mean, I wouldn't fight Zuckerberg. He looks like a killer right now, right? He's like ripped. It doesn't matter the size difference, because he just needs one takedown and an arm bar and one and it's over, right? And if you have a bad back, you can't fight anybody. So I don't know. We'll see. I still think it's good promotion, good marketing. I don't know. I don't want to see any of these people fighting, but so in the end, as much as I do want to see it, I don't really want to see it, right? All right. So just reading a comment here on P-Man Van. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second, P-Man Van. P-Man Van talking about friends and what happens, and we'll talk about that in a second. We got some advice. So Cernovich comes out and talks about Elon rising as a hero, right? And indeed, I think many of the things that we're enjoying here in this space, as far as not being like P-Man Van's friend here, who was like, oh, Russia, Trump, right? If you're not like that and you're not worried about these things and you're not stressed out about it all the time, I'd say Elon has something to do with that, right? He's an engineer, and I think recognized that there was this pressure valve in the system and the pressure needed to be released. And that's what happens, sort of like what Vivek has been saying for a long time, that the reason why January 6th happened in the first place was the censorship and the inability to have a conversation. And when you don't let people talk, of course, it boils over into violence and the rest of it. And Elon did a great service to humanity, or at least to America. I don't know if all of the world is caught up in America's anger and tension and stress and crisis, but in their own way they are, of course. Ask the Ukrainians, right? You do get caught up in it, whether you want to or not. Although they look like they're having a great time. Have you seen all these images all weekend about what a party weekend they had in Kiev? Well, good for them, right? I'm glad they get to party a little bit. Looks a lot more fun than most American cities these days. So, of course, Elon doing this pressure valve thing. And now that we have this X platform out, you actually start to see that this is really exactly what was needed. And it's not going to stop in its rebalancing of the entire mind space, the entire debate field, the entire battlefield of World War III. And I don't think the trajectory of it being useful and being a pressure valve and inviting more heroes, exactly as Cernovich said, and Cernovich himself might find an all new level of influence in the 2024 election. He kind of sat out 2020 in all for all the right reasons, right? Seeing problems, seeing what was going on. He was the first to abandon Trump, don't forget, and how important that is for him now as he goes forward, right? He was not a Trump lackey, let's say. He said, and he still to this day criticizes Trump regularly for, and he did this weekend. Trump had Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, and he's being friendly with Lindsey Graham. And Cernovich said, this is why I hate you. And this is why you're stupid, and you've created these problems, right? Now, he supports Trump these days simply because of the indictments. And did you see what Trump said about it this weekend? I just need one more indictment, please. Just give me one more, and I'm guaranteed to be the president, right? So I'd say Cernovich would probably be in a spot where that's kind of funny to him, but at the same time, Trump continues to do these things and continues to not understand who his friends are and not understand really what the game is. Now, I don't go as far criticizing Trump as Cernovich. I tend to, whenever I see something that Trump does that I don't like, I've learned now that usually in the long run he had it right. And I got some lint on the hat. So pretty interesting take. And these heroes can arise. And now that X is around, I think you're going to see more, right? And this was predicted by one of our favorites here on the Breakup, Michael Crichton. And he had a couple of videos and a couple clips and some talking points that were trending over the weekend in Twitter, because someone put together a pretty interesting thread on Michael Crichton talking about junk food journalism, which is our theme today, putting an X through junk food journalism, right? So the junk food journalism, which is what he called it, already in the 90s, he predicted it was over, right? And this is what he said. So he calls it the mass media or mainstream media, and that it was completely built to hypnotize, brainwash, and is absolutely not interested in giving you the truth. It's actually only interested in giving you anxiety. That's what it sells. It sells anxiety. It sells worry about this and worry about that. It's never going to be there for good news, right? I got a local newspaper here in Vermont, which is just poetry, gardening tips, and classifieds for the local area. And the actual headline is "No news is good news." Right? So no news is good news. And it's just things that people in the countryside want to do, right? So a useful thing. So Michael Crichton goes on to remind everyone about how dangerous it is to mix science and politics. And he predicted already the climate change disaster as far as the politicians getting involved, what that would amount to, and the kind of problems, and go ask Europe about all their energy illiteracy problems. So this was something he was on for a long time. It's something that I've shared avidly on this channel. I've talked a lot about how aliens cause global warming, one of his famous articles and speeches. Part of it was taken from this actual speech that he was given, so I recognize some of the pieces as they took it out. Michael Crichton, was one of the first people to perceive this as a problem. And what he predicted way back then was that the mainstream media was going to die like the dinosaurs, that it would be obsolete in no time, and that you would never even hear about it now. He did this in 1993, this speech, a few years before the internet had even become accessible to most people, because the World Wide Web and all that stuff only really was deployed in 1995 for every normal person. I'm sure he was using the internet before that in its less natural, less intuitive interface within its more technical barrier to entry. And so I'm just guessing, but I imagine Michael Crichton would have been one of those people who knew what the internet was already in the 1980s and was already using it to help him put color into his projections about the future and his imagination and what was coming, right? Because this is one of the things he did. He was absolutely a futurist. We saw it with Jurassic Park, and we saw it with a lot of his other stories, underlining what different elements are going to define the world in the future. And so here he ends up describing a news and information service that's more accurate than anything that came before it, and that would be driven by individual people, not corporate media, individual people on a news platform that would do kind of what we're doing here this morning, right? Instant feedback. We're pretty much a week ahead of the mainstream media, and then we actually give the right context of the story, right? What you get from the mainstream media is usually sort of all the facts, but none of the story, right? And you can see a great example. We're going to talk about it today, right after this. It's CBC News, the Canadian news outlet, did a whole analysis. Like, it's so long, don't read it. Obviously, you never read anything on the CBC. I tried to read, well, I kind of sped read it. It's already, the interface online with CBC is atrocious. It's like ad, one line of the story, another ad. When I was looking into this stuff at CoinDesk, right, I was somewhat involved with the advertising models at CoinDesk. I'm the person who got the ads completely stripped out of the articles in CoinDesk in 2019. Because I'd had enough of scrolling these stupid ads. They put them back recently, but that was something that I can lay claim and take responsibility for, is that I helped fight to get all ads off of. We were making no money off of it, and it just ruined the entire reading of the news experience. It was the dumbest thing we ever did for $100,000 or something. It didn't solve any of our problems and only created this difficult barrier to accessing the good journalism, the good writing that was going on. So what the CBC News story ends up doing here is it, I'll give you the headline, right? So what's the deal with Hunter Biden? They ask. What's the deal? What's going on here, right? What's going on here? Analysis: to toggle between news channels in the US these days is to run the risk of whiplash from the head-snapping different treatments of the story, right? So they go through and they give all kinds of the scandal swirling around Hunter Biden, what we know, what we don't, and what's next, right? Now they go on to say, oh, the laptop thing, and they have to mention, as all Canadian story, if there's a Canadian involved, they got it's a Canadian, right? So Emma Jo Morris, the person who broke the story for New York Post and is now with Breitbart, she's from Montreal, right? Like, as if that's a big part of the story. She's from Montreal, right? So they talked a little bit about the Hunter Biden suppression of the news before the election. No big deal, right? It's just one thing that happened. It's just a thing that happened, right? So that's what they do. This article is way too long. It's like 1,000 words, and it's just what happened, but there's absolutely no context given. And the very end of the article is, and of course they give all the talking points, right? It wasn't there. Biden didn't know. It's just some money. We don't know about the problem with it, right? And in the end, they go to this Washington-based campaign legal center, and he goes, if it's true, it's serious for Hunter and Joe, right? If it's true, it's serious, right? And then in the end, they end the whole article with the following statement: the only question is, are they true? Is there evidence that shows that these are more than just claims that are made and that were unsupported? There's many unknowns. There's just many unknowns. There's stuff we don't know. Okay, there's stuff we don't know. We don't know. Next, all right. So that's the summation of what the mainstream media is capable of. We don't know. We'll see. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Whatever, right? Is there any investigation into looking in? Is there any prioritization of the problems? No, it's just a bunch of stuff. Trump did this, Biden did that. Years went by, a bunch of other shit happened, and now we don't know. We don't know. Right, we don't know. Any mention of the political candidate getting arrested? No, that's not. That's a separate story. It's a separate story, right? So, this idea of what Michael Crichton is presenting here already, saying that basically the mainstream media is a enemy of the people. He was one of the first people to say that they are the enemy of the people, and that they are creating this psychological condition that will basically, in his mind, force everyone to have an appetite for other types of news. Now, I don't think he assessed how much people would get addicted to this kind of news and addicted to hear how well their team is doing on either side, right? Fox does it, CNN does it. Fox invented this model, right, of no matter what happens on your side is right, and we're going to just tell the news through your side. And now it seems like it's human nature to want stories told this way, because people got furious. They still haven't forgiven CNN for the time it had Trump on and tried to give the news and do it straight. They don't want that, right? They want their side of the news. And I'd say we're all guilty of that, right? Like, I don't want to, I'm a Bitcoiner. I don't want to watch a show that treats Bitcoin in a way that I wouldn't recognize. I wouldn't watch that, right? If there was some finance show out there and they didn't understand Bitcoin and they were trying to talk about stuff, and then they were like, oh, what about this Bitcoin thing? Of course I wouldn't watch it, right? Of course, like, it's not interesting to me. So I get where they're coming from. So Michael Crichton predicts that the technology would exist one day to put the mainstream media out of business, because it would empower individual content creators. There was no such word as content creators back then. He just called them journalists, but these journalists would have the capacity to go out on their own and do these things. And that looks like it's what we're seeing. It took a lot longer than what Michael Crichton predicted, but it looks like it's happening. So now we also had Balaji jump onto this idea of how to make X super profitable and how to make X the most important platform to cancel culture, because that's partly what the media does these days, is it enforces the cancel culture mandates in order to make sure there isn't debate. It's one of the survival mechanisms that Michael Crichton didn't predict, right? When he said the mainstream media was going to die like the dinosaurs immediately in 1993 when the internet was invented, he didn't understand the staying power in some ways, right? Which is a very common mistake that many people make when they predict the future. Too quick, not quick enough, those kinds of things, right? So I think he could see what was coming. He didn't understand what forces would come into play to preserve what happened. Now, I'm sure he saw them before he died in 2008. They became obvious. But Balaji here talking about what X can actually do, right? So we get the curation piece, but also this crowdfunding piece, right? And we saw that Elon is starting to do it now with Gina Carano, the Star Wars actress. So this weekend, Elon Musk said anyone who's been fired unfairly from a job for XYZ reason, I'll pay the legal costs. And so doing more or less what Peter Thiel did for Hulk Hogan in the pornography case a few years ago with Gawker. That could be pretty interesting. And then because he has X, right, he can obviously what he calls reverse the polarity of some of the tone of these stories. So curation, contingency, crowdfunding, coverage, he might be able to actually totally push back against mainstream media, given the tools that X is now giving to independent content creators and the empowerment that it has for independent journalists. And if that isn't enough, right, we also have Glenn Greenwald picking up on this point, and then I'll mention what Vivek did on this again, because I'll bring up the interview that he did with what was his name again, the David Pakman. So here's what Glenn Greenwald was saying about mainstream media and doing a bit of mind reading, but I think it encapsulates what's going on, and another one of those effects that managed to preserve mainstream media longer than Michael Crichton had predicted. But here's what it is. So you get this guy, Justin Baragona. I forget, I've seen him before. He's a mainstream news guy, but I forgot to mention where he comes from. I just have the screenshot here, but he's, I think, one of these usual suspects. So he says the following about Megyn Kelly. Remember Megyn Kelly? She was on Fox, then she went to NBC, and now she's on her own, doing real well, right? Doing real well. So Justin says, in just a few short years, Megyn Kelly went from one of the most sought after and highly paid anchors in television news to a YouTuber devoting her time to raging about what woke beer another podcaster drinks. So that's just his impression of what Megyn Kelly is doing right now. I have nothing but respect for Megyn Kelly. I think as a a legal mind, she's great. And even the way she handled Trump and the lessons she learned when Trump told her she had blood coming out of her wherever, remember, because she was the one, you say bad things about women, and he says only Rosie O'Donnell. One of the greatest Trump moments there ever was, right? Trump again showing that sometimes only he has the way out of these problems, right? You could argue about Rosie O'Donnell, you could, no. Or you could argue about this, the statement she said about women, and only he blames it on Rosie O'Donnell. Just great. But here's what Glenn says about this Justin guy trying to laugh at Megyn Kelly right now. Again, I don't even know who this guy Justin is, right? Justin Baragona, right? And you're not as rich as you were, Megyn Kelly. How does he know what money she's making these days, right? How do you know what she needs, right? He doesn't know shit. So this is what Glenn Greenwald says. He said, this is a subtle but important way liberal corporate media employees show their authoritarianism. They assume that being even a low-level employee of a large media corporation vests one with more credibility and fulfillment than working independently with a large audience. Part of their motivation to create this framework, only working for a large media corporation is serious and credible, is personal. The status is all they have, so they want to elevate its value. But it's also authoritarian. Only large media corporations vest credibility. As Chris Hayes explained in his very good 2012 book, Twilight of the Elites, one who goes to work for and then permanently thrives within a large media corporation will inevitably adopt the corporation's worldview, values, and belief system. This is also why so many of them are indifferent toward, if not supportive of, the US government's persecution of Assange. Assange is what they pretend to be. He broke more huge stories than they have all combined. But he never worked for a media corporation, hence not one of them, right? And I think that's exactly how I see it. But now what he's saying is this credibility they get, right? Well, they lose it after years and years and years of doing exactly what Michael Crichton predicted and exactly what we saw in that CBC article. Oh, we don't know. We'll find out, right? Who knows about this Trump president and Hunter and all? Well, it's a bunch of facts, but what's the story, right? They don't know. So I mentioned the other day about Vivek and him knocking David Pakman out, like just wiping him off the floor. And so he wrote another piece on it. He tweeted about it because it kind of went viral this week and a lot of people were talking about it. And he put a few more words to it and I think put the knife in and twisted it once. But this is where things are headed. And he goes, and just imagine, so go back to the pressure valve for a second again, right? When Elon turned the engines of X on the way he did and didn't, kicked out everyone, did the Twitter files, fired everyone, got all the CIA Mockingbird people out of Twitter. And then all of a sudden, right, simultaneous, Vivek comes on the scene. Simultaneous to that. But now they're not necessarily related. I think Vivek probably had plans before Elon did this. I was running my show before Elon did it. I was going to do it whether Elon did it or not, right? But here's what Vivek says again about Pakman. And this stuff becomes devastating because this is where we're headed, right? This is where we're headed. I understand my progressive elite former peers in places like Harvard, Yale, and Wall Street. And I understand better than most their dripping sanctimony and condescension toward the so-called rubes in the rest of the country. They remain cloistered in their enclaves and think they're worldly because they've been to London, backpacked in Prague, and took a photo with some starving child in Myanmar. Yet they're downright ignorant, bigoted, and unwilling to hear out their fellow citizens in their own country. Do that first. Then you can feel good about yourself for going to Haiti or Myanmar after that. I know how to give them the dose of the reality that they need. I will not be shy about prescribing it. This is good stuff, right? This is good stuff. You're not going to get anything like this, like what Vivek is doing here. You're not going to get anything like that out of the mainstream media. You're not going to get any one of these morons getting put in their place the way he did to David Pakman today. And David Pakman is the best. That's why I mentioned it. He's the best there is on that, let's call it left-wing independent content creator scene. There isn't better than him. He's the top. I've invited him to the Bitcoin shows, right? He only takes money. I only speak for money. That's because he's so important, right? Obviously, I do not pursue him further. I do it to get one name on the board that might have something different to say and whatever, right? So again, I think Pakman is capable of evolution and learning, and I still give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he's lying in the way that these elites or whatever you want to call them from the Glenn Greenwald point of view are suggesting. Like, I don't think David Pakman is anti-Assange, but I could be wrong about that. I don't know. I don't follow really David Pakman. I've seen a few things, and he was not hating on Trump supporters, right? I have no problem with people who hate on Trump. None, never have. And if I see a journalist go after the supporters, I change my mind about that journalist immediately. If they just go after Trump, no problem, right? Pakman was pretty good at that over the years. He really was. So I always want to give him credit for that. Trump, fair game. All day criticize him. He's perfectly criticizable person, right? Perfectly criticizable person. So Vivek doing this, I think, brings this out into the open and starts showing how X can actually work, because it's produced someone like Vivek. I don't think Vivek is on the scene if it isn't for what Elon Musk did to. Now he's on the scene. He's just not getting the amplification yet. He can't say things like this, right? So for his thing about January 6th, it's the perfect answer. It was the censorship. It's the perfect answer, right? But he's doing it again here, right? So now NBC is freaking out because this weekend Vivek said that the U.S. may be aiding Ukraine, right? That the whole Ukraine war might be because of Hunter Biden. Now, that's not the context you got in the CBC article, right? The CBC article is like, well, they said some stuff about it, and they said some stuff about it, but we don't know, right? Vivek is here saying, it could be that we're at war because of this stupid Hunter Biden laptop thing. It could be, right? Now, I don't know the answer to that. What do I know about Ukraine and Russia? What do I always say? You can't trust anything out of Ukraine and Russia. Nothing. Even those videos of people partying all weekend. Who knows? I mean, really, who knows, right? I don't want to spend any time debunking the party videos in Kiev over the weekend. Looks like fun. I wish I was there, right? Looks like a great time. Actually, I don't want to go to Ukraine. Chris Christie was there this weekend. We'll talk about him in a second. But here you go. Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy implied Saturday that, this is from NBC News, that American involvement in the war in Ukraine may be because of President Biden's son, Hunter, right? So, and then Vivek adds, it's not crazy to think Ukrainian companies' multi-million-dollar bribe to the Biden family is one reason why Biden is now showering Ukraine with billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars. It's crazier to think it's totally unrelated. And craziest of all is that the GOP is playing along as if they're in on the act. And indeed, this is one of the big things that has happened because of people like Vivek and Trump originally. Remember what I said about Trump destroying the Republican Party from the inside and completely tipping the balance. Now, that whole idea is starting to spread mainstream because of people like Vivek and because of platforms like X. Because just look at the litany of failures this weekend from the normal, stupid GOP side, right? Look at these morons. Look at what we got. We got Mitch McConnell, right? He tried to give a speech in Kentucky. He got booed off the stage. Just people yelling, retire, 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 right? He couldn't even make it through a sentence. We've seen it with Lindsey Graham before, right? People have had enough. You got Chris Christie going this weekend to Ukraine. He was there at the parties, right? Don't think any of the women touched him. So he's there, and what does he do? He goes and sees Zelensky, right? Because he's running for president. Chris Christie's running for president. Like, who cares? And the news is that he gave Zelensky handwritten lyrics from Bon Jovi's "It's My Life," and the stupid mainstream media covers this garbage, right? Like, but it's not going to move the needle. Obviously, it's nothing compared to what Vivek is saying. Vivek is saying we're in Ukraine because of the Bidens. He's not handing them Bon Jovi lyrics. And then, of course, you get Mike Pence this weekend, right? Pence comes in and says that he's going to now testify against Trump in all of this January 6th, the sickos, January sickos stuff, right? So Mike Pence, the vice president, saying, I will answer the call, right? So he's willing to testify against Trump in court, is what he's saying. He suggests. Sticks, Hex, and Hammer says the following. Mike Pence is just trying to silence Trump's criticism of him by making the case that any criticism is witness tampering. This is the one where Trump said he's coming after them, right? You know, I'm coming after you, which I totally endorse, right? Jonathan Turley said, Trump shouldn't have done that, right? Forget it. We're not in the world of it's an honest system, and now you did something rude. We got to trust in the system to work, right? Cernovich put it perfectly. Cernovich was criticizing that idea that there's this like politeness that Trump isn't showing by saying he's going to go and arrest other people. Trump is being charged with a crime that carries the fucking death penalty, okay? The death penalty. All bets are off here, guys. All bets are off, right? And Cernovich says Trump isn't legitimizing an illegitimate system, right? That's the only way. Don't even pretend this is a functioning legal system in DC with good faith actors. It's a show trial to make Hitler jealous. Trump's rhetoric is tame. He should call them Nazis. They are. So the Mike Pence thing ain't going to work. And Sticks, Hex, and Hammer had a really awesome criticism about it, where, let me see if I have it here. Sticks, Hex, and Hammer says, oh no, he did one on DeSantis. So that's what Sticks, Hex, Hammer said. So Chris Christie, not going to happen. These are old mainstream media guys. Mitch McConnell, Mike Pence, Sticks, Hex, and Hammer criticized him here. And then the other one, DeSantis, comes out this weekend, right? He goes to like a wedding or something. He tries to do a thing that Trump does, right? I photobombed a wedding, right? Sticks, Hex, and Hammer, I think, ends him again, right? And he says the following: DeSantis is like that public speaker who gets invited to your high school, and the school makes attendance mandatory, and you end up with hundreds of zoned out kids in the gym rolling their eyes and listening to a lecture even more boring than the teachers give. That's it. That's DeSantis, right? So now, if you add all of that together and just look at the contrast of what X has already done for political candidates, had we still been in the old system, the one that Michael Crichton said, it's not going to make it, it's going to be as extinct as the dinosaurs, I don't think Mike Pence and Chris Christie and DeSantis would look as big of a joke as they do. On X, they look like an absolute joke. And Vivek Ramaswamy is adding to them looking like a joke, right? He's just so much more talented, saying the things that people need to hear. His answers on January 6th, his answers on most of this stuff is spot on. And it's that pressure valve that Michael Crichton was talking about, and that Elon Musk engineered, right? So if you add those things together and you think about the threats, the intimidation against Trump, and now they're going into staff at the White House, they're getting them all caught up in stuff like that, then you start to realize that we have already seen the shift, and there's a million reasons to be optimistic. And to go back to what Cernovich was saying in his Periscope this weekend, right? It's not fatalism. Now, he might be right. We might not have an election in 2024. Things are so sketchy that it's hard to predict, right? But that doesn't matter, because in some ways the future is actually very easy to predict. If you just look at what's happened with Vivek and contrast him with these other GOP candidates, you can see that what has changed already in the GOP is coming through the whole system. It's coming to the Democrats too. And it's coming to the Democrats hard, right? And it's coming in the form of our favorite, Bobby Kennedy Jr. And what did Bobby say about all this stuff this weekend, right? So remember what I said. Once you have these echo chambers, which exist, which are real, right? And they push people away from each other, and they make them fight the silliest things. You can start to see that what Trump did to the Republican Party was not a one-off. RFK is offering the same dose of reality in the other echo chamber. And it can probably only happen internally, right? It can probably only happen internally. I don't think Trump is persuading anyone on the other side. He's persuading people in the middle, right? That's why he's hoping for his fourth indictment, which will guarantee his win, right? Which maybe is true and maybe it isn't. But here's what Kennedy says, right? So Kennedy, first of all, has the following to say about the CIA and Wikipedia. So he's picked up on this Wikipedia story that we talked about on Saturday, that Wikipedia is now absolutely clearly without, I think, any push, moderated by the CIA. The CIA is moderating Wikipedia and has since 2008. So Kennedy puts in a bit of a sarcastic post, I guess, Twitter post. Aren't you glad the CIA is telling us what is true and what to think? That's their job, right? Or is it to spy on hostile foreign powers? Can't quite remember, right? And then he had the following to say about Trump and Russia, right? So he says he denounced Russiagate as political propaganda. We saw the FBI legitimizing Russiagate, the propaganda against Trump. I am not a fan of Trump, but I don't think that the FBI should be deployed against any presidential candidate, whether I agree with that candidate or not. Kennedy also commented on Hunter's laptop. You had 51 CIA agents or high-level officials signing a public letter that said what the Hunter Biden laptop was fake, was disinformation. And when they either didn't know or they knew it was a lie, and that's something that we should not tolerate. And of course, we should not tolerate it, of course, right? But here we are, tolerating it. So, but it won't be much longer. It won't be much longer. The idea of this fast food journalism and these quick takes, again, goes back to, as we've discussed many times, right? Money, right? Money. Isn't it funny that the fiat system, with all of the entropy that's set in, with all of the chaos around it, has produced a information distribution system that makes people feel like they've eaten McDonald's and terrible food. And that also, just by chance, our mental health is a big problem in America. Loneliness is a big problem in America. But just by chance, right, the food is also disgusting and turning people into, now I like a McDonald's burger every now and again. I'm not out there to shame anyone for eating fast food. I like it every now and again, right? McDonald's is a popular restaurant because it's delicious, right? Now, it could be way better than it is, and I don't eat the fries anymore, and all that's done, right? And I only go to A&W now, really, in Canada, because it's all grass-fed beef. A&W in Canada is much better than America, by the way, in case you guys didn't know. But look, I get why people like fast food. It is delicious. Every now and again, it's delicious. But you don't want it all the time, and that's what the mainstream media is. It's 24/7. You can't have fast food 24/7. You need nutrition. And that's why I think it's amazing that candidates like Vivek, even, Vivek talking about, he's a vegetarian, obviously, right, as a Hindu, or I'm not sure what his religion is exactly, but he talks about his vegetarianism very regularly. And then, of course, I think the top candidate and to me, it is what separates Kennedy in the end. Besides the Bitcoin, I'm a one-issue candidate, so he's already got the Bitcoin piece, so that's really important. But his stuff on food and dining and personal health is absolutely vital to the health of the Republic and to America and to the world in the end, because America's poisoning the rest of the world with this shit. So the idea that Bitcoiners have this almost religious connection to food, and that food is all about destroying the grocery store cartel and the fast food sludge distribution system, has everything to do, I think, with appreciation of money in the way that Bitcoiners do. Bitcoiners aren't going to waste money on shitty food. Bitcoiners will spend actual Bitcoin on grass-fed beef. I tell every farmer that. There's only a few things that will separate a Bitcoiner from their Bitcoin. One of them, without fail, is grass-fed beef. They will do it. They will pay a farmer, no problem, right? And I often tell people, I met a friend of mine who makes, he has his own little business here in Quebec. So Quebec is, if you think the bank cartels are bad, the grocery store cartels in the United States of America are way worse. Well, maybe not worse. They're super bad, right? They're terrible, and they're hard to compete against. They have actual agents. If you guys didn't know this, welcome. I've spoken with people who have tried to release products before in grocery stores. I know one of the great packaging families of North America, let's say, right? They're huge packagers, all the candy bars and all kinds of stuff you eat you didn't know my friend's family packages them. And I've heard many times that there are people that are hired and deployed in grocery stores to remove items, hide items, put them in the back shelf, put them at the bottom shelf. One of the things I love about Barbados is that any local maker of anything can get their wares into the main grocery stores on the without much trouble. Quebec's pretty good at that too. Vermont's not great at the big grocery stores, but we have enough independent grocery stores and we have enough farmers and all that stuff. But in general, you can't just get your products to be sold at a local grocery store. It's not possible, right? These people are terrible. And the farming model that goes and is plugged into the grocery store model is super insidious. And there's only one person talking about. There's literally only one person in the political field talking about that. Yet it is probably the most important question of the future: the food we eat, right? And that's Kennedy, of course. And Kennedy is always talking and stuff I have no idea about. I don't know if he's right about it, but he talks about the yield of small farming can beat industrial farming. I hope he's right. I don't know. I'm willing to try. Obviously, I don't want to perpetuate the system we have, but I don't want people dying either of starvation. But the idea that the yield could be greater is very attractive, and I hope it's true. And let's see if it is true. So this idea then that we've got the chance anyway to both get rid of fast food and fast food journalism and replace it with wholesome, sustainable information sharing system. Remember, I hope this morning gathering never comes across as like passive you can be entertained by it, but I hope it never feels like I'm just talking at you. I try my best to take in comments. I try to be interactive as much. I try to say when I don't know the answer as often as I can, right? I practice the protection from cognitive dissonance. Maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe I'm wrong about Bitcoin. Maybe, could be, maybe. I don't think so. Maybe, right? But you got to do these things, and you're not going to hear them on the mainstream media. So, we are here. This is the future. This is the future of journalism. I wrote a review for my grocery store here the other day, which is just a farmer he was a farmer. He grew up as like a main cow dealer with his dad all around the area, but now he runs a beautiful little market, and he curates all the food that you get there. It's all local, not one thing from not local. And it's the grocery store of the future. It really is the grocery store of the future. It's not the grocery store of the past. It's the grocery store of the future, right? And that was my online review of them. And I think it's true. All right. Well, we didn't get to much of the Trump thing about, threatening the lives of the prosecutors and all that. Anyway, I say he didn't go far enough. It's all a show. Come on, right? But one thing he did do, and I want to, before we go to some more comments, I just want to read his writing. He truth posted about the U.S. women's soccer team. They're the most universally reviled sports team in the history of America. Like, no one in America wants these people. You see everyone this weekend. All the Americans that I saw were cheering on the Swedish team because the girls were prettier. Rude, but funny, right? But here's what Trump said. So he puts in quotations, the shocking and totally unexpected loss by the U.S. women's soccer team to Sweden is fully emblematic of what is happening to our once great nation under crooked Joe Biden. Many of our players were openly hostile to America. No other country behaved in such a manner, or even close. Woke equals failure. Nice shot, Megan. Nice shot, Megan. The USA is going to hell. Nice shot, Megan. You got to give him credit. I mean, if anything, despite having a capital punishment charge against him and the threat of being indicted for the fourth time and living through being the first political opponent to be threatened with jail regularly in America, he's still pretty funny, right? The USA is going to hell. All right. Fun stuff. I had a friend yesterday tell me the Biden situation is all lies and Russiagate was 100% true. Yeah, it's not easy, man. Again, what you got to do there is get them to work it out themselves. It's a lot. It's a burden, man, and get them to explain it to you. Play dumb. I don't understand what happened. Explain it to me, and they won't be able to. They can't put it together. And the minute they hallucinate, that's a hallucination, right? Oh, but you're mind reading. Right, those two things alone will keep them on course as they try to explain to you. Just mind reading, hallucination. Don't hallucinate. Don't mind read, and then maybe, right? And then maybe. Sugar zombies can't think things through. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, they have the best part, Brian, is that when I disagreed with him, he asked if I was an alt-right now. Jeez. I don't know. Well, P-Man, embrace it, man. Just, yeah. I'm an alt-right. Yeah, I'm super crazy. sometimes, I was the first person. I normalized this, I think, in 2017. I would say it when people say you're a Trump supporter. I'd say I love Donald Trump. I love him. I've always said my support of Trump, and that's why I don't support him really. I mean, with all this indictment, of course, my reasons to not support him in 2024 are going away because of the trouble, right? Of course, I would rather Vivek and RFK and all of these people, but that doesn't change that I love him, right? It doesn't mean I agree with him at all. I just love him because he disappoints us, because he's, you know, who he is. He's just an interesting guy, right? Like a crazy interesting person who still makes funny jokes, right? Even despite all this trouble. So, when people, I never defended, I like Trump. I just would say straight up, I love him. I love him. I love him. It's love. It's love. It has always been love, right? Muggle TV on L. Frank Baum, predictably crappy. Yeah. It was his white privilege. That's what let him do all kinds of fun shit. Right? Fentanyl is the biggest problem, and it's not even addressed. Glenn, it's the saddest thing. It is the biggest problem. It is the biggest problem. It is. Yeah. 100% it is. Is Trudeau... I don't know. I bet it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't even, to me, it wouldn't matter. Even this one about Obama. Okay, guys, this one about Obama this weekend. Oh, Obama had thoughts about being gay. So what? And then this journalist or biographer comes in, and what was the headline? And it made the circuit in all the right wing or MAGA circles. Obama is even more self-conscious than Trump. Is Trump self-conscious? do you believe Trump is like a weak? Do you believe the left-wing things about Trump, that he's like a weak person and he's needy because he's so self-conscious and he has low self-confidence? Those things? That's not true. All right. So the minute someone says to you that they know, what does he have a special device that goes through Obama's ears, and he was able to look inside and say, oh, I see your thoughts. I can see your thoughts through your ear. I know you're more self-conscious than Trump, right? So people were going on about this all weekend. So what if he had thoughts about men when he was a teenager? Like, if anyone knew what was going on in your head, right, it wouldn't look that pretty. It wouldn't look pretty in no one. There's crazy shit that goes through everyone's head. How many times I'm sitting there and someone's talking to me and I'm saying, what would happen if I punched them in the face right now? So I'm never going to do it, right? And I'm sure everyone has those kinds of weird thoughts all the time, right? So when I see this kind of stuff, I can't take it seriously. I can't. So is Trudeau a homosexual? Who cares? I don't care, right? I don't care. I just don't care. There's plenty of reasons to dislike Justin Trudeau, just like there are plenty of reasons to dislike Obama. Plenty. You don't need to worry about what he thought about with his girlfriend when he was a teenager and whether or not he sucks males off. Who cares? And it doesn't matter. Now, there's things about, that you could, if it went further, sure, right? The kid stuff is always a major problem. Major. And if the thing about Trudeau, so I don't know if you guys are hearing, but the rumors about Trudeau are not men, right? They're not men. Many people, if you go with the men thing in Canada politically, the more the more suspicious people are saying that'll be a cover. He's willing to pretend he's gay so you can't criticize him because it will inoculate him from being criticized. It's homophobia, right? But what people are saying is that it's, and from my experience, personally, I've seen him with many girls, many, right? His office was across from mine in Parliament. I've seen shit, all right, for years when he was just a congressman, like literally across the hall and down a little bit, but on the other side in the same hallway. And the hallway it's the whole length of Parliament, but I was at one end, we were pretty close. It was only like, I don't know, 20 feet, 30 feet between us and across the hall. So, and then I've known a lot of the girls. They told me, right? I saw stuff, heard stuff. Don't know if any of it's true. What we did know, and this is what they're asking about, is that he's already paid. This is a matter of fact. He's paid a girl that he was a teacher of when he was at a school in British Columbia to not talk about whatever happened, and then he had to leave mid-semester. So people are asking, why'd you leave mid-semester? Some people say that the money that was paid to this girl, and that this girl was much younger than what the media said. They said she was 17 and he was like 21, 22. Now, look, I was a teacher in my high school just like him when he was 21, 22 years old. It ain't easy. So I don't know if he did anything, honestly. It ain't easy. Like, and by ain't easy, it's not that you're trying to stop yourself. It's that they keep coming at you, right? You know how many like weird things I had when I was a teacher? And panties on the car antenna, the antennas used to come off the cars. Yeah, weird shit. I reported everything to the principal immediately, obviously, but I could see how dangerous it was. I could see, right? I was 4 years older than many of the girls I was teaching, and that can get very, very weird for the girls. For the girls, right? For me, I was fine. But a lot of craziness can happen, and I'm sure Trudeau went through that, right? So it wasn't just him being a perv. I bet you there were girls after him. Now, is he innocent? No idea. I don't know. If he did anything to a young girl, throw him away. Throw him in jail, right? Throw him in jail. Doesn't matter what age she is. If it's below 16, right? It doesn't matter. At 17, I think the formula in Canada changes. Consent can be given at 17. So it's not the same. It's still a power abuse and all that. That's all true, right? So I wouldn't want to take that away. But there you go. Food and money. Get those two right and you're done. Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. I would add light to that list. Yeah, we need the light. Yeah, we need the light. But the sun is up, guys. The sun is up. We need decentralized farming. That's exactly it. Yeah. Trump is hilarious. Is your chapter 2 out? How's the book going? The book is done. I'm still creating some of these audio files. I might release. I'll release chapter 2 this week, though. Bitcoin. I need to get it out. It's been done for a while. I've just been trying to get a few together. All right. Vivek, thanks, Ben. We love it. I appreciate it. Bushmaster 6 says now after Obama. Yeah, see, we don't know. We just don't know. Now, if he is, fine. I don't care, right? And now, if he did anything to hide and push agendas, it's another story, right? Yeah. Oh, do yourself a favor. Life is great off the drug sugar. Yeah, but I can't quite quit. I restrict all sugar except what's in my milk. I have a bit of milk, and I don't put sugar in my milk. Milk has sugar. So and then I still eat a bit of fruit, right, in the day. And then at night I always give myself a huge bowl of chocolate ice cream. So now it is a drug. I understand why people want to get off sugar. I think one day I will, maybe. Right now it doesn't bug me too much though. And I'm not trying to lose weight or anything like that, right? So, but it is a drug, bud, and I'm just lucky that I'm one of those people that doesn't have a crazy appetite for sugar. Are you even? I'm lifting, man. Come on. What do you mean? Am I even lifting? I got a gym here. I got a gym there. Come on, Austin. I'm not trying to put on huge pounds, but I lift every day. But I do not. Yeah, I don't touch vitamin C really. I don't really care. Bitcoin doesn't even eat fruit. Wow. Yeah. No, I can't bring myself to do it. But I don't. So I don't have. As I understand it, what we were talking about at the start, the attention span that comes from sugar addiction and from constantly needing a sugar high. So I fast every day. So I won't eat today like every day until afternoon. And then I stop. No chocolate ice cream after 10 p.m. Right. I usually eat the chocolate ice cream between 8 and 10. And I put a ton of peanut butter into it. I know peanut butter is no good. Blah, 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 blah. I love it. Oh, and I like tomatoes with dinner. I have cherry tomatoes every day. There's some fruit and there's some sugar for sure in that. But that's about it. That's about it. That's about it. All right, team. I shall see you tomorrow. I hope you have a great day. Slarty Blart Fast reminds us that fruit does have a lot of good stuff. Yeah, I do it for, I have an excellent, predictable, consistent bowel movements, let's say. So I make sure the fruits are part of it. All right, team. I shall see you all tomorrow. Thanks for making it this morning. Look at this. Holy Moses, Bitcoin Graffiti. You're doing 4 o'clock fasting in the afternoon. Wow. No, I can't make it that far. I mean, I can any day. I actually don't even have it's not a struggle for me to do intermittent fasting at all. Like really easy. I can go easily all day without eating, without even hesitating. I don't even notice. If I'm at home doing my regular schedule, I'll make a steak at noon and all that, right? But that's amazing. All right, team. Have a great day. See you all tomorrow for another excellent morning. This might have been the best one we ever did. Tomorrow is going to be better. We're going to have an even better breakup tomorrow. It's going to be great.